Tonight, the Katherine River drops, but a moderate flood warning is still in place as attention shifts to the Daly River region. Good evening, I'm Kyle Dowling. This is ABC News, Northern Territory. Also tonight, the Aussie share market plunges to rising concern over soaring oil prices. Iran announces Ayatollah Khamenei's son will become the country's new supreme leader. Also tonight, Ed Smelt snatches the seat of Nightcliff for Labor, giving the party a voice in Darwin. And Jasmine Hewitt takes the best and fairest, and Dylan Lant the Nichols Medal at last night's NTFL Awards ceremony. Hundreds of remote Northern Territory residents could be stranded in Darwin for weeks as a major flood emergency isolates entire towns in the top end. In Katherine, the road to recovery is beginning to reopen as locals assess the damage of a wild weekend of rain.
The destructive power of a once in almost 30-year flood, fences mangled and debris by the truckload.
It just kept coming in, into the shed, into the house, into everywhere.
Water ravaged Dave Sherry's home, rushing through at head height, gutting his electrical business.
Financial cost will be significant, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. I bought here knowing it was in flood zone. I don't expect any support or anything.
A small army of unpaid volunteers working on the mammoth cleanup.
This is the worst spot I've seen.
Among the helpers, local businessman Trent DeWitt, whose flood updates on social media have been a lifeline for many in Katherine.
So the river's broken its banks on O'Shea.
It was thanks to him that I made that final decision to move my vehicle to high ground at the last minute. And when that water filled up under my house, I was so happy that I'd made that decision.
This is what we do, it's what we expect, and it's what happens.
After 3 days with no food and a boil water alert affecting thousands of residents, the only supermarket in the region finally reopened its doors, only briefly, this afternoon.
The clean-up will be a long road ahead, made more difficult with the town's only tip out of action for the foreseeable future. Authorities say skip bins will soon be placed around the town for destroyed white goods and furniture as locals clean out their homes.
In Darwin, hundreds of remote residents who had to be flown to safety are gearing up for a weeks-long stay in emergency accommodation.
We've got them sheltered for the short term. We've got them provisions provided for them for short term in Darwin, Katherine and Mataranka, but the long term will come up in the recovery phase.
Mataranka's famous homestead is unrecognisable, while the nearby Jilgminging community has been inundated. With more than 100 millimetres of rain over Daly River in just 2 hours this morning, the emergency risk is still rising with the river. James Elton, ABC News, Katherine.
And our reporter Olivana Lathuris joins us now from Katherine. Ollie, you've just managed to get into the town this afternoon. How was the drive in?
Well, Kyle, I think the only word to describe it would probably be nail-biting. The rain and the storms were honestly just relentless from the moment we left Darwin, pretty much to the moment we arrived here in Katherine just a short time ago. Everywhere you looked, there was just torrents of water on either side of the road. Every creek system, river system that we drove past was just swollen with an incredible volume of water. Still a fair bit of water over the road in some places, and Kyle, dare I use the P word, but a lot of potholes. So it is just a good reminder to anyone, even though the highway is back open, just to drive particularly carefully if you are out and about over the next couple of days. Here in Katherine, the river is still receding, although after the weather conditions we experienced today, of course, there is always the risk of further flash flooding or renewed river level rises. Meanwhile, around 400 households remain without power, 30 remain without sewerage, 700 people still in evacuation centres today. Schools remain closed, so still a long way off from life returning to normal here in Katherine.
And Ollie, the Daly River is still rising. How long could people be stranded in Darwin?
Well, Carla, could be weeks. There was more than 110 millimetres of rain recorded in under 2 hours in Daly River this morning. And we know that 11 people had to be winched to safety from the community of Palumpa over the weekend. The entirety of the Now Daly River community has now been evacuated to Darwin for the second time this year. We did speak to a resident who was evacuated. Take a listen.
It was a disaster. We had to pack our bags and leave our home and head for the high ground.
So, Carl, a really difficult period of time for the community of Now Daly River, who will have to spend probably a prolonged period of time a long way from home, and certainly the same down here in Katherine, a long way off before people are able to get back on their feet. Carl?
Thanks, Ollie. Well, further north, heavy rain across the Greater Darwin region has led to flash flooding in parts of the rural area, with motorists being asked to only travel if essential, as some roads are cut off. The Stewart Highway near the Elizabeth Bridge was partly underwater thanks to some slow-moving showers during the afternoon. Finn Road was another of several cut off by swollen rivers, which also impacted a number of schools in the rural area. While it was not ideal for driving, the wet weather was welcomed by some more suited to the rain.
And over here, there's a big goanna here. I think that's about close enough, I reckon. Yeah, a little salty.
Labor's Ed Smelt has won the Nightcliff by-election with a vote count check removing any doubt he's claimed the seat. A check count conducted by the Northern Territory Electoral Commission on Monday slightly increased Mr Smelt's lead to 158 votes over the Greens' Suki Doris Walker. Miss Doris Walker's 33% share of the primary vote on Saturday was not enough for the Greens to hold the seat, with the preference flow favouring Mr Smelt. He says he is deeply honoured to be elected the member for Nightcliff and will be a strong voice for his constituents. The Northern Territory's Director of Public Prosecutions has ruled out seeking a High Court appeal to the sentence of hit-and-run driver Jake Danby. Danby avoided prison time after he hit 2 pedestrians in Darwin in 2024, one of whom died from his injuries. After the crash, Danby fled the scene and sent text messages to friends calling the victims dogs and a 2-for-1 combo. He was originally sentenced to 5 months in home detention, which was raised to 2 years after a Court of Criminal Appeal decision last month. The DPP says it has now reviewed the latest appeal decision and that there are no legal grounds upon which a High Court appeal would succeed. Roads have been cut, rescues carried out, and evacuation orders issued after heavy rain lashed much of central and southern Queensland. An emergency alert is now in place for parts of the Fraser Coast, North Burnett and Central Highlands. And there are now fears the Burnett River could reach the major flood level at Bundaberg by tomorrow night, a similar level to the 2010 floods.
Trapped by a creek that has become a torrent west of Gympie, a man sits precariously on the roof of his car. Fortunately, swiftwater rescue teams were able to reach him. As a huge band of rain swept down from the north, his was not the only rescue. The 2 occupants of this car in Bargara were also removed safely. The driver was fined.
Think about it through the eyes of those emergency services personnel. They got loved ones too, and anything you can do to stay out of harm's way helps everyone.
After 66 millimetres fell in an hour, residents of Sapphire in the Central Highlands woke to an eerie sound. As another creek threatened to break its banks. While in the Burnett region, Paradise Dam began spilling this morning. Bridges were closed and hotel staff trapped in Maryborough as the Mary River began to rise.
I live out of town, so I've got to stay at the pub tonight so I can make sure I get to work tomorrow.
Further west, parts of the Western Downs had the kind of rainfall not seen in years. This motel owner was up all night, accommodating 20 people caught in floodwaters in Chinchilla.
In country towns like Chinchilla, it's great where people can open a door and say, look, come in, you need a hand and we're there for you.
For many, soaking rain is very welcome, but it's more than some roads and bridges can handle.
I can't believe the quantity. It's way more than what I've had in one hit.
Charlie's Creek here at Chinchilla is currently at the moderate flood level, but the Bureau of Meteorology is warning it could reach the major level overnight.
So as the rain does start to decrease overnight tonight and stop tomorrow, downstream areas will still be experiencing the impacts of flooding.
Grace Nakamura, ABC News, Chinchilla.
The war in the Middle East has sent the price of oil soaring, raising fears of it reigniting inflation and prolonged pain at the petrol pump. Strikes on oil production and storage facilities in Tehran and across the Gulf have markets in a tailspin. Australia had its worst day on the ASX since Donald Trump's so-called Liberation Day, the sharp sell-off shedding $120 billion at one stage. And the price of oil has been surging towards $120 a barrel at one point, up 25% in a day. And there's no end in sight to the crisis, with Iran appointing a hardliner as its new supreme leader in a message of defiance to the United States. We begin our coverage of the war tonight with Chief Business Correspondent Ian Verinder.
Roads lined with flames and pillars of fire over Tehran. Daylight revealing the impact of Israeli strikes on a major oil depot that's still burning and now raining oil onto the city's residents.
But you can see that the rain water is actually black, also saturated with oil.
Across the Gulf, energy and oil infrastructure has been pounded. From Kuwait to Saudi Arabia, scenes of destruction that have markets in a tailspin, and the price at the pump rapidly ticking up.
I used to fill it with $60, and now it's like $80.
We pulled up and it was $2.46, and when I filled up in the morning, it was $3.
US President Donald Trump says the oil price pain is a very small price to pay, claiming they will drop rapidly when the war is over. Cold comfort for farmers across Australia.
I can't believe that diesel's already over $2 a litre. This is crazy.
The national average for diesel is now $2.21 a litre, and around the country, petrol now ranges from just under $2 a litre on average to $2.17.
Every action is possible is being taken to help Australians and Australian farmers and Australian industry.
It's not unusual for markets to act and behave like a deer in the headlights, waiting for the train to hit.
As we saw during Russia's invasion of Ukraine, fuel prices drive inflation. It took 3 years and 13 rate hikes to bring that price spike to heel.
We're also seeing higher prices for gas, for LNG, and this is causing concern that electricity prices are going to increase and skyrocket again in Australia.
National Australia Bank is predicting that this oil supply shock could send inflation up to 5%. This creates an enormous dilemma for the Reserve Bank. Higher fuel and electricity prices takes money out of people's pockets, reigniting the cost of living crisis. But it may be forced to jack up rates just to keep inflation in check. A bitter pill for the nation's more than 3 million mortgage holders. Ian Verinder, ABC News.
It's not just the price of oil and gas that's surging. The crisis in the Middle East is expected to start impacting the price of food and the cost to ship it around the world. Here's Alan Kohler.
Over the weekend, investors went from worrying to panicking. And when the market opened this morning, they were selling for whatever they could get and then kept panicking as the morning wore on. At lunchtime, beachcombers moved in looking for jewels in the Jetsam and prices rose a bit. And in the end, the market fell a bit less than 3%, with miners and banks hardest hit, led by BHP, which definitely wouldn't have fallen as much if it hadn't got rid of its petroleum division. Petroleum stocks, Woodside and Santos, were the only ones to go up. What investors are freaking out about is the possibility of stagflation, which is a combination of recession and high inflation, which is what happens when inflation is caused by a supply shock, as in the 1970s. In those years, in real terms, that is after inflation, the share market fell 74% and the bear market lasted for 4 years. Stagflation is toxic for share prices because not only do company profits fall with the economy, but long-term interest rates go up as well, reducing the valuation of those profits, a double whammy for prices. It's not just the oil price that's going up this time, but also jet fuel, which will push up airfares, the price of LNG and, importantly, the cost of shipping it, up more than 500%. Urea, which will push up the price of fertiliser and therefore food, and naphtha, which will push up the price of plastics. To say that the closure of the Persian Gulf is a big deal for the global economy and markets is an understatement, especially for Japan and Korea, where share prices fell the most today. The US market fell on Friday mainly because jobs fell 92,000 in February, reversing the big rise in January. The US economy has created no extra jobs for 12 months, but economists don't know whether that's because of Donald Trump or AI, or both. Here's a roundup of the commodity prices, and you know things are bad when even the safe havens, gold and silver, are unsafe. And food prices are starting to move. Wheat and cocoa up more than 5%, sugar 2.8%. Finally, tonight's anticlimax. The Aussie dollar is unchanged at 70 US cents. And that's finance.
Alan Kohler there, and there are concerns the war could run longer with the regime selecting a hardliner as the nation's new supreme leader. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's son has been named as his replacement, an outcome the US president had warned would be unacceptable.
Celebrations on the streets of Tehran. Supporters of the Iranian regime heralding the appointment of a new supreme leader. More than a week after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was assassinated, his son Mojtaba Khamenei has been chosen as his successor. The 56-year-old hardliner is expected to carry on his father's legacy.
Thank God someone became the leader who we are confident will avenge the blood of his father and will not compromise with America.
That sentiment not echoed everywhere. Death to Mojtaba. People in Tehran can be heard yelling in this video. The announcement was made as the Iranian capital was still dealing with the fallout from Israeli strikes on oil facilities. Authorities warning residents of thick polluted air and acidic rain. One woman sent the ABC this voice note.
Tehran has taken so much smoke that we can't properly see anywhere. The attacks have been this intense.
Another Iranian telling the ABC over text message, the air has grown heavy. Cars and houses are covered with soot. It feels as if black rain is falling from the sky. Gulf states continued to bear the brunt of Iran's response. The United Arab Emirates releasing footage of its air defences downing Iranian drones.
Target destroyed.
As leaders across the region sharpened their public criticism.
We deeply regret the unprecedented and unjustifiable attacks perpetrated by Iran.
We never expected this to come to us from our neighbours. It is a big sense of betrayal.
Iran has also fired barrages of missiles at Israel. Most were intercepted, but one hit a residential street in Tel Aviv. To the north, the Israeli military is intensifying its attacks on Lebanon, hitting a hotel in the heart of Beirut and killing members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard.
I tell you that there is no safe place for the Iranian branches of evil anywhere in the Middle East.
The death toll from Israeli attacks across Lebanon is climbing towards 400, including more than 80 children. The conflict prompting tens of thousands of Syrians who'd been living in the country to flee.
We don't have a house, nothing at all. We're going without knowing where we'll stay.
Uncertainty on the other side of the border, preferable to the danger they're leaving behind.
Matthew Doran joins us now from Jerusalem. Matthew, Donald Trump has previously warned that any new Supreme Leader wouldn't last long without his approval. Have we heard from the US President?
Kyle, good evening. We've heard through Fox News that he's reportedly not happy with the appointment of Mojtaba Khamenei, but we do need to also stress that Donald Trump's insistence he was going to have some sort of role in helping to appoint the new Supreme Leader of Iran was always going to be a stretch. This is a very different situation to, say, Venezuela, where the US has tried to enact regime change there in the last few months and has been praising the new leader in the weeks since then. The decision to appoint this new Supreme Leader in Iran is clearly a reflection of the regime wanting wanting to show it is still in power, despite being bombarded by Israel and the United States for more than a week now. It is also a reflection of the view that people like the Iranian president do not call the shots here, that the power is vested in the supreme leader. Now, Mojtaba Khamenei, he has been a feature of the leadership for some time. He will be something of a known entity to the United States and to Israel, but they will be watching this very closely. And Donald Trump says any decision to end the war will be a mutual one taken with Benjamin Netanyahu. Given the Israeli government has said any successor to Ali Khamenei would be a target, Kyle, I think it's safe to say that this war has a long way to run.
Thanks, Matthew. The Iranian community in Australia is becoming increasingly worried about the fate of the country's women's soccer team if they return to the war-torn country. Supporters are calling on the government to grant the team members asylum, but with the team under a strict lockdown and due to leave the country any day, their future is unclear.
They've really put their hearts on their sleeves.
The tournament is over for Iran, but the drama is only just beginning. Supporters surrounding the Iranian team bus as they leave their final Asian Cup match on the Gold Coast, warning they could face punishment if they're returned home. The fears arose after this moment. What's being viewed as a silent protest when players refused to sing the national anthem in their opening match. The reaction from the regime was scathing. Traitors during wartime should be dealt with severely, this state media presenter said.
So we don't know if these girls are going to be arrested, if their family is going to be under more pressure, if they're going to be executed, if they're going to be sexually assaulted.
Our responsibility now is to continue to work as hard as we can on the AFC, FIFA and also the Australian government to ensure that every bit of pressure is applied to make sure that the players are safe.
The exiled Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, has also weighed in, writing, "I call on the Australian government to ensure their safety and give them any and all needed support."
If asylum is requested, I have confidence that the government will give it due consideration.
Decisions on visa matters are made by Home Affairs, and where it's appropriate to do so, we'll be providing further information.
The players have been kept under a strict lockdown, so it's uncertain whether they want to seek asylum in Australia. In any case, they're in an invidious position. If they do seek asylum, there are fears their families in Iran could be persecuted. If they return, they could be persecuted. Even the question of how they'd go back to Iran is uncertain, except that it would involve a long and dangerous overland journey. With the players due to leave the country any day, the future for Iran's women's soccer team is desperate and uncertain. David Mark, ABC News.
And there'll be more on the war in the Middle East later this hour on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson. In the NTFL, Pints ruckman Jasmine Hewitt has become the greatest female player of all time, recognised as the game's best and fairest for the 4th time. While in the Men's Premier League division, St Mary's Dylan Lant took home the prestigious Nichols Medal at last night's annual awards ceremony.
And I'd like to announce that the winner of the 2025-26 Nichols Medal is Dylan Lant of the St Mary's Football Club.
Cementing his place in the NTFL Hall of Fame, Saints captain Dylan Lant has become one of the game's most decorated players of all time.
It's a funny feeling. It's obviously reward for hard work, but yeah, it's surreal and there's a lot that goes into it.
After receiving the honour in back-to-back seasons, the skipper was overlooked last year.
I just love playing footy and I just want to get the most out of myself and kind of have no regrets when I finish.
Only one of 2 men to take home the prized Nichols Medal 3 times. Lant now ties the medal tally with Nightcliffe's Brodie Philo. Ahead of the big dance on Saturday, they're both chasing a different kind of bling.
He's a champion player and yeah, to join him is a great honour and we've had great contests with Nightcliffe for the last 6 years since I've been up here.
Pints Jasmine Hewitt made history, becoming the first player ever to be crowned the women's best and fairest 4 times.
Tell me, when you came here tonight, did you think that this would happen?
Absolutely not. I don't know if you can feel the stage, but it is shaking right now. It does not get easier.
After finishing her 7th season, the former AFLW ruck is hoping her luck will carry through to the grand final when the Queen Ants take on the Nightcliff Tigers.
We can't wait to have a crack against you guys next weekend. I'm sure it'll be a ripping contest.
No doubt this Saturday will be a ripping doubleheader for the Premiership League. Courtney Barrett-Peters, ABC News, Darwin.
And in the AFL, Collingwood coach Craig McRae has praised his side's defence and flexibility in its 12-point win over St Kilda. Several new recruits and a record home crowd weren't enough to get St Kilda across the line. Acting Pies captain Nick Dykos finished with 41 disposals, while veteran Scott Pendlebury was influential in his 78-66 victory. McRae says it's not even round one yet, but he feels they've got a flexible side that's working together.
All the other games we watched this weekend is high scoring, 100 points. We kept them to 66.
The Matildas say they're frustrated with their performance in their final Women's Asian Cup group game, which has forced them to travel back to Perth for the knockout stage. Their 3-all draw with South Korea in Sydney last night means they finished second in their group and will face either China or North Korea in the quarterfinals.
The Matildas are on the move again. Second spot in the group meant a 5-hour flight to Perth instead of staying in Sydney.
We're professional footballers. We know how to recover, to travel. We do it all the time in Europe.
There's no time to dwell on the frustration of the draw with the quarter-final quickly approaching.
We needed more goals. We didn't get them and, we're going another route. Simple as that.
Yu Jeong driving into space.
Australia needed to win to top the group, but the visitors struck first.
And it's a dream start.
The Matildas had a strong finish to the first half to take the lead.
First time finish, and she does so with aplomb.
But that momentum didn't continue, with South Korea scoring 2 quick goals after the break, and the Matildas threw away chances to hit back.
We didn't manage the moments well with the ball. That's the honest truth.
Defender turned midfielder Alana Kennedy scored a late equaliser, her 4th goal of the tournament.
I think we saw the Matildas' mentality at the end of the game, which is really pleasing. We'll bring that into the next match.
Steph Catley left the field early with a concussion and would be a big loss if she's ruled out. A tournament record crowd of over 60,000 people attended, with many fans likely to miss out at the 20,000-seat Perth Rectangular Stadium for Friday's quarter-final. Amanda Shalala, ABC News, Sydney.
India has become the first nation to win back-to-back T20 Men's Cricket World Cups with a 96-run win over New Zealand in the final in Ahmedabad. Sanju Samson top-scored with 89 as the home team posted 5 for 255. The Black Caps were dismissed for 159 as India won the tournament for a record 3rd time. And it's time for the weather now, and tonight's weather pick of water at Merri River Bridge has been sent in by Linda Doe. And you can send us your weather photos to weatherpicsnt@abc.net.au. Today, the western top end was affected by hours of heavy rain and thunderstorms, including Nauru and Darwin's rural area. It was 25 in Darwin, 29 for Warramayunga. Zooming out, 32 degrees in Katherine, 31 in Nhulunbuy and Borroloola 34. 31 degrees for Alice Springs, Yulara 35 and Tennant Creek 34. On the satellite, continued widespread cloud across the north of the country and east of Queensland, and a trough stretches across the northern tropics with lows over the top end and eastern Queensland. Interstate tomorrow, a late shower expected for Hobart, 29 degrees, the top in Melbourne. Mostly sunny conditions for Canberra, clearing showers for Sydney. For Brisbane, a bit of wet weather expected, sunny for Adelaide and Perth reaching a top of 25. Around the Territory tomorrow, Alice Springs, sunny and 33, 34 at Yuendamu and clear skies for Tennant Creek. In the north, showers and a possible storm for Katherine. Borroloola could also see a storm tomorrow and a top of 31 in Nhulunbuy. And to the west, showers and a chance of a storm in Bachelor. We could see showers easing for Darwin tomorrow, reaching a top of 31. There's a major flood warning for the Daly River, with significant and prolonged major flooding expected at the Daly River Police Station. There's a possibility of major flooding through the weekend and into next week. There's a moderate flood warning for Catherine River, with moderate flooding occurring at Catherine Bridge. The Catherine River is falling, but we could see further rises with more rain expected ahead across the Territory. There's a morning high tide just after 10 and a low tide at 3:14 in the afternoon. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:49 and set at 7:05. And looking ahead, showers and possible storms expected to hang around for Darwin. We could see a bit of showers easing tomorrow potentially, and sunny and warm days ahead for Alice Springs. The possibility of some showers possibly returning at the end of the week. And stay with us now, Sarah Ferguson is up next with 7:30. Good night.